Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Now, where have I been? Look, unfortunately, my laptop died. I changed jobs, so I've had other priorities. I've not been able to upload much to this season at all. I've uploaded a staggering 3 videos since this season started. So yeah, not looking good. But I've literally just set up my new computer. I've got the webcam on. I apologise, I've lost my tripod, so the camera is down a bit. But I thought, what better way to come back than rate all the Ten Hag signings that he's made over the 22-23 season. And what better way is there to do that than with a tier list? Come on, let's get straight back into it. Now, first up, we've got Malacia. Now, the problem with Malacia is that there's a weird group of our fans that just dislike Luke Shaw for whatever reason. I seem to absolutely love him. He's my favourite player. And people think he's going to be benched every time we sign a new left back. The same thing happened with Tellez, the same thing happened with Malacia. And that hasn't happened. And the reason why, Luke Shaw is just simply too good of a football player to be dropped. Now, that's not me dissing Malacia at all in any way possible. It's just that he's not as good as Luke Shaw, and I don't think overall he is that good of a fullback in general. I haven't been majorly impressed at all. And I do find it quite a strange signing. The only reason realistically he was signed was because he locked up Anthony when Ten Hag was the manager of Ajax. So, on that basis, in my opinion, Malacia is in the C tier. Now, Christian Eriksen. The thing with Christian Eriksen is that he was signed because our midfield was flat. We didn't have many players at all. But I don't believe that he was brought in to play the role he did for how long he did. We know that Eriksen has a heart problem, and it just doesn't seem feasible that he played that many minutes. He played almost all of the season. And he was doing a job that he was just way out of depth to do. He isn't a box-to-box 8. He couldn't contribute defensively to help Casemiro. I don't think entirely he had a bad season, but he was definitely a good stopgap. And now we're going into the 23-24 season. We're looking at signing new midfielders like Mason Mount, for example. Eriksen's role is going to change to become more of a rotational option, more squad depth, which I think he was signed for that reason. So for me, Eriksen goes into the B tier, which I think is pretty fair. The £95 million man, Anthony, our right winger. No, the price tag, that is in no bearing Anthony's fault at all. If that's what Ajax consider his price tag to be and how much he's worth to them, that's completely up to Ajax. Manchester United paid that fee, rightly or wrongly. I really like Anthony. I really like that we finally have a right winger who's left-footed, who can retain the ball. He puts in a shift offensively. We know he can finish. We know he can create. He's developed some sort of relationship with our fullbacks. First season coming into the Premier League from Eredivisie is obviously always going to be difficult. It's a completely different league. The physicality levels, the endurance, how many games you play. I think Anthony has done well to keep up with that. He's provided goals. He's provided assists. He's provided important goals as well. But at the same time, I still want more from him. So for me, Anthony goes into the B tier. I think that's fair. I don't think that's underselling him. I don't think it's overselling him. Martin Dubravka next. Absolutely bizarre signing. Just straight into the D tier. He played like one game and went back to Newcastle. Casemiro, one of the fan favourites. Now, straight off the bat, I'm going to be honest, I do not have Casemiro in the S tier. Now, you need to remember, right, we were playing with McFred, Pivot, McTominay and Fred. Any midfielder we signed was going to be an upgrade on them. Absolutely no doubt. Casemiro has been a huge lift in the midfield. His reading of the game, the way he breaks up possession, the way he wins the ball back. He is slightly a better passer than both of those players, but he still isn't good enough. And the Manchester United midfield at the moment are lacking a player in the first phase to take the ball off the centre-backs on the half-turn and spray the ball around. And Casemiro just isn't that player, which is probably why we wanted Frankie de Jong initially. And that would be my priority signing for our midfield going into the next season, finding someone to play alongside Casemiro or rotate with Casemiro, who is very good in the first phase. Now, he hasn't been able to win over the referees in the Premier League like he has in La Liga. He's had a few red cards, but he still played a big impact on his season. He scored a lot of goals from defensive midfield, which is quite surprising. He is a fan favourite. I obviously like Casemiro. For me, I would put him in the A tier. Lisandro Martinez, the Butcher. Now, the last player that Manchester United signed to make as big as an impact as Lisandro Martinez was Bruno Fernandes. When you get a player like that, you just, as a fan, you can't help but love them. Even just on the technicality of signing a left-footed centre-back to open up more passing angles. And a lot of people were worried about his height, even myself, and that really hasn't let him down that much. He's been one of our best players of the season. I'm so unfortunate that he got injured. It would have been great to have him around for the cup final. I find it very difficult to put Lisandro Martinez anywhere other than the S tier. He's an upper echelon signing. Now, Marcel Sabitzer signed in the January window, mainly because Christian Eriksen was injured. I'm not a fan of Sabitzer, and I wasn't over the moon with the signing, to be honest. I mean, we needed to sign someone, and I think a lot of our fans got into this weird idea that because he's better than Fred and McTominay, we should sign him. We should absolutely not be signing Marcel Sabitzer after his loan deal at all. He, for one, isn't good enough. Two, he doesn't suit the midfield balance at all. He doesn't offer us any balance with Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. He's certainly a lot better in the final third play. He isn't a defensive player at all. He's just sort of alright, isn't he, at the end of the day? And that's absolutely fine to say that. He did score those 2 important goals. I think a lot of fans fell in love with him after that. But at the end of the day, for me, I would put him... I think he's somewhere in between bottom tier and C tier. But I'm going to put him in C tier for now. Wow, Weghorst. You know what? I was actually calling for United to sign Weghorst as a plan B before we were linked with him, before we signed him. I don't really know why. And then we had the World Cup and he scored those goals and I was gassing it up. Like, I told you all we should sign Weghorst. It's like a plan B striker when Martial's injured. We signed him and he turned into be our starting number 9. And apparently he can't find the back of the net. But as soon as he goes away with his international team, he knows how to do that. Now, I'd probably say for like the first couple months, Weghorst had a really important role. And he was very helpful in games with his pressing, his work rate, his defensive contribution. We even had a point where Rashford was playing as a 9 and Weghorst was playing as a 10. I'm so glad we're not going to see that again at all. I think it would be quite delusional of myself to put him in the B tier because overall he didn't contribute that much effectively to us winning that many games. So on that basis, I think he should be going in the C tier. I'm sorry, wow. I know I gassed you up for too long. I know I wanted you. Thank God you're going at the end of the day. Right, on to the last player that Erik Ten Hag signed, Jack Butland. I don't understand. I don't understand why we signed Jack Butland. If we already had Tom Heaton, we already have De Gea, who clearly wasn't being dropped at all, even though he was putting up Hag'S throughout the season, and especially towards the end of the season, he still wasn't being dropped. Ten Hag seems to just want 3 goalkeepers, and no one really knows why. And a goalkeeper like Jack Butland, he isn't that bad. He's an all right keeper. He should be playing first team football somewhere, whether that's in the Championship or in the Premier League, in a mid-table club or a bottom of the table club. And he just didn't get any opportunity. We've paid him money. We've paid wages. I don't understand what Ten Hag's philosophy is there with having 3 goalkeepers. You know, it was the same. We had De Gea, Dubravka, and Tom Heaton. It didn't really make any sense to me. So, again, that's another goalkeeper that's going into the D tier on the bottom of the list. Speaking of goalkeepers, what I want you all to do is comment below in the comments who you want to replace De Gea. It does seem at the moment that he is going to leave. His contract expires in, I think, 9 or 8 days. We're heavily linked to Onana, Diego Costa. Robert Sanchez could be available maybe to pick up. There's obviously also David Raya, but he is also linked to Spurs. That comes to a conclusion of the video. Look, I hope you enjoyed this. It's my first video back. I wanted to take it easy. I didn't want to go too crazy. I am going to buy a tripod because I know I keep looking up and down. And I want to be making more videos throughout the next season. I've got my setup sorted. And hopefully I can provide some entertainment and some value to you all. But for now, that is it. Peace. See ya.